Okay. So starting from the top, we're pretty much going to walk through the same exercises on the first page, except this time we're dealing with perpendicular lines. So it says, identify the slope of a line perpendicular to the line given. So slope is m, and the slope of a perpendicular line is not the same. Remember, perpendicular lines look like this. They intersect at a 90-degree angle, so obviously they don't have the same slope. Their steepness is not the same. So perpendicular slopes means you're going to change the sign and you're going to flip the fraction. It's called the opposite reciprocal. So this is just a warm-up, these first four, just having us identify the slope of a perpendicular line. So the first step, just like we did on the first page, is to find the slope of this line by putting it in slope-intercept form. So I need to get y by itself, so I'm going to move the x over. I get negative 6y equals negative x plus 2. Divide everything by negative 6. So I get y equals, I keep slowing down here because people have had trouble with this. This is like a negative 1 divided by a negative 6. So those negatives cancel, giving me a positive 1 over 6. Keep the x. And then 2 divided by 6 is 1 over 3, and it's negative, so it's negative 1/3. A lot of people have been just going from bottom to top, like 6 divided by 2, which is 3. That's not right. You've got to always kind of work from top to bottom. So this simplifies to a fraction, not to a whole number. So now that I'm in slope-intercept form, I see that the slope of this line is 1/6 right here. So I need to find the opposite reciprocal slope. So the perpendicular line will have a slope of, if it's positive, if 1/6 is positive, my new slope is going to be negative, and 1 over 6 flipped is 6 over 1, which is the same as just 6. Okay, so let's go to the next one. 3x plus 12y equals negative 6. I want to get y by itself, so I'm going to move this x, the 3x to the other side. I get 12y equals negative 3x minus 6. Divide everything by 12. Okay, I get y equals, slowing down again, negative 3 divided by 12. It's a negative divided by a positive, so my final answer will be a negative 3 over 12. I've got a small number on top, so this is going to simplify to a fraction. They're both divisible by 3, so it's going to be negative 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I get a negative 1/4 x. And then here, negative 6 divided by 12. They're both divisible by 6. This is a negative divided by positive, so it's going to end up being negative 6 divided by 6 is 1 on top, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. So I get y equals negative 1/4 x minus 1/2. So the slope of this line is negative 1/4. So a perpendicular line is going to have a slope that has the opposite sign, so it's going to be positive, and it's going to be flipped. So 4 over 1, which equals 4. Okay, so number 16, same steps. Going to get y by itself, minus 4x on both sides. 7y equals negative 4x plus 6. Divide everything by 7. So I'm left with y equals, okay, negative 4 divided by 7. Those do not, it's getting blurry, those do not have a common factor. So it's just going to be 4 over 7, and because it's a negative over a positive, it's just going to be negative 4 over 7. Keep the x. And then over here, 6 over 7, they also do not have a common factor. It's positive divided by a positive, so it's going to be plus 6 over 7. So the slope of this line is negative 4 over 7. So if I'm looking for a line that's perpendicular, it's going to have the opposite sign, which will be positive, and it's the reciprocal. So I'm going to flip it, and it'll be 7 over 4. All right, the last one here where we're just finding the slope. Need to get this in slope-intercept, so minus 5x. So I get 4y equals minus 5x plus 8. Divide everything by 4. and I get y equals negative 5 divided by 4. Those don't have a common factor. It's a negative divided by positive, so it'll be negative 5 over 4x. And then plus 8 divided by 4 is a positive 2. So the slope of this line is negative 5 over 4. So a perpendicular line will have a slope of opposite sign, which will be positive. Flip the fraction, so it'll be 4 over 5. Okay. Moving on to the next section, it says, write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through the given point and is perpendicular to the graph of the given equation. So we're going to follow our same 3 steps. 1, find the slope. 2, find the y-intercept. And 3, plug it into y equals mx plus b. The tricky thing here is just remembering that perpendicular lines have a slope that is not the same, but it's the opposite reciprocal. So finding the slope is going to be a little bit more work than on the front page where we were just finding the slope and we were done. So here I need to get these in a slope-intercept form, so I'm going to move this over. I'm left with negative 5y equals negative 2x minus 10. Divide everything by negative 5. I'm left with y equals, I'm going to slow down here, negative 2 divided by negative 5. 2 and 5 have no common factors, but they're both negative, so they become positive, 2/5 x. And then negative 10 divided by negative 5, once again, 2 negatives, it's going to become positive, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So the slope of this line is 2/5. So step 1 over here is to find the slope of my perpendicular line is going to be opposite sign, so my new slope will be a negative, and flipping that fraction I get 5 over 2. So this is step 1, and now I'm going to go to step 2, which is finding the y-intercept. Using y equals mx plus b, I'm going to solve for b. To solve for b, I'm going to plug in this point xy, and I'm going to plug in my slope. So I'm plugging in negative 5 for y, equals m is negative 5 over 2, x is 4, plus b. This fraction, to solve that, I'm going to multiply the numerators together. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Negative 20 divided by 2 is negative 10. So I get negative 5 equals negative 10 plus b. To get b by itself, I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So I get b equals positive negative 5 plus 10 will give me a positive 5. So I have my slope. I have my intercept. Now it's time just to plug those in to my new equation, which will be step 3. Y equals m is negative 5 over 2, x plus 5. So that's quite a bit of work, but it's the same steps we've been following. So moving on to the next one, I need to get this first in slope-intercept form so I can find the slope. Divide by 2. Y equals negative 3 divided by 2 is negative 3 over 2. X minus 7 over 2. They have no common factors. So my slope of this line is negative 3 over 2, but I'm trying to find the slope of a perpendicular line. So it's not going to be negative 2, it's going to be the opposite reciprocal. So my perpendicular slope is the opposite sign. Whoops. Sorry, I clicked out of the app. Okay, so the perpendicular slope is going to be opposite sign, so it's going to be positive, and then I'm going to flip the fraction, so it'll be 2 over 3. So that's my slope. Moving on to solve for my intercept. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to solve for b using this point and my new slope. So y is 1 equals m is negative 2/3, x is 1 plus b. Anything times 1 is itself, so I'm going to get 1 equals negative 2/3 plus b. I'm going to add 2/3 to both sides. At this point, you can use a calculator if you want. I don't have one with me. So I'm just going to know that 1 is the same as 3 over 3. That's how I get a common denominator with 2/3. Add the numerators, which will give me 5/3. B equals 5 over 3. So now that I have my slope and my intercept, I'm going to plug them in to my equation. Y equals, m is negative 2/3, x plus 5/3. Okay, next one, finding my slope. However, this is just a y equals, so I remember Hoi, if it's y equals, it means it has a slope of 0 and it's a horizontal line. This is where I want to stop and think. I made the mistake on the front of doing all these steps when I didn't really need to. Hoi Vux is actually how we remember horizontal and vertical lines. Well, I know that horizontal and vertical lines are perpendicular to each other. So if this is y equals 5, it's a horizontal line. A line that's perpendicular is going to be a vertical line with the equation x equals. So that's, I'm just going to write x equals, and then I use my point. I know that x equals negative 1. So that's the equation of a vertical line. And vertical lines are perpendicular to horizontal lines. So you could have walked through all the steps and you would have arrived at the same answer, but it's important to recognize when you have a horizontal or vertical line, you can just skip a lot of work by thinking through it. So on number 21, back to finding the slope, putting this in slope-intercept form. Negative 4 divided by 3 is just negative 4 over 3x. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. The slope of this line is negative 4 over 3. So the slope of my perpendicular line is going to have the opposite sign, so it'll be positive. And I'm going to flip the fraction. So it will be, sorry, this is really blurry, 3 over 4. Positive 3 over 4. Okay, number 2 is finding the intercept. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to solve for b, plugging in my point and my slope. So y is negative 5 equals m is 3 over 4. X is negative 6 plus b. To multiply this fraction, I'm going to multiply the numerators together. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Negative 18 divided by 4, you can't do 18 divided by 4, but I can simplify. They're both divisible by 2. So I'm going to get negative 5 equals, negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9, and then on the bottom I had a 4, so 4 divided by 2 is 2. So you could have used your calculator. If you have no idea how I got that, check it with your calculator. But it should be negative 9 over 2 plus b. I'm going to have to add this to both sides. Just put that there so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, negative 5 plus 9 over 2. And like I said, I don't have a calculator handy, so I'm going to have to work this out. You have to get a common denominator to add fractions, so I need a denominator of 2 with this. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 2. So I'm going to get negative 10 over 2 plus 9 over 2. And that'll give me negative 1/2. So if you used your calculator, you should have gotten the same thing, or it never hurts to practice adding fractions by hand. So that is actually what I get for b. b equals negative 1/2. So b is negative 1/2. M is 3 over 4. When I plug those in, I get to my equation, I get y equals 3/4 x minus 1/2. Okay, next one. I need to find the slope of this line by getting it in slope-intercept form. Okay, so negative 5 divided by negative 6, they have no common factors, but they are both negative, so it becomes positive. 9 divided by 6, 9 can't be divided by 6, but they're both divisible by 3 with a positive and a negative, so it's a negative. 9 divided by 3 is 3, 6 divided by 3 is 2. The slope of this line is 5 over 6, so the slope of my perpendicular line is going to have the opposite sign, so it's going to be negative, and I'm going to flip the fraction, so I'll have negative 6 over 5. Okay, step 2, finding the intercept, the y-intercept, b. I'm going to plug in x, y, and m. So y is 5 equals, m is negative 6 over 5, x is negative 3 plus b. I'm going to multiply negative 3 times negative 6 is negative times negative is positive 18 divided by 5, so it's just 18 over 5. Okay, I want to subtract that from both sides. Okay, once again, I am missing a calculator, so I'm going to have to work this out on this side. Okay, I need a denominator of 5, so I'm going to multiply 5 by 5, so I'm going to get 25 over 5. That's the 25 over 5 is the same thing as 5, because 25 divided by 5 is 5. So 25 over 5 minus 18 over 5. Now I can subtract the numerators. So 25 divided by 18 is 7. 7 over 5. Okay, so b is 7/5. Okay, now that I have b and I have m, I'm going to plug them in. Y equals negative 6 over 5, x plus 7 over 5. Okay, over here, it's my last one, and it looks like it's a special kind of line. It's an x equals. So x equals is a vertical line. X equals is a vertical line with an undefined slope. So a perpendicular line is going to be horizontal with a y equals equation. So this is going to be y equals, what does y equal? Negative 3. Pretty straightforward if you remember Hooy-Vux. Okay, and this last one, it says, find an equation of a line that has a y-intercept of negative 1. Remember, y-intercept is b, so I'm just actually taking out a step. I'm giving you b, and I'm telling you that it's perpendicular, meaning the slope is going to have the opposite sign, and it's going to be the reciprocal to the graph of the line y plus 4 equals 1/4 x. So I need to find the slope here, take the opposite reciprocal, plug in b, and I'm done. So this, I just need to subtract 4 from both sides. So I get y equals 1/4 x minus 4. The slope of this line is 1/4. So a perpendicular slope would be the opposite sign, so it'll be a negative. And then 1/4 flipped is 4/1, which is the same as 4. So I have my slope, I have my intercept, and so I just plug these in. Y equals negative 4x minus 1. And that is it. So that is every solution to your study guide worked out.